In this video, I'm going to talk through a dog-themed line chart demo and the code necessary to create it. You can find the demo in the rGraph Archives demo folder. The first thing that's done, which is not strictly a part of the rGraph line object, is that a tickmarks radius variable is set. This will be used when the tick marks are being drawn further on in the code. The demo is a straightforward line chart with two datasets. It's animated, has custom drawn tick marks, and it uses the before draw rGraph event to clear the canvas to a black color before the drawing commences. It only requires two libraries, the line chart library and the Common Core library. The canvas tag is pretty standard. It sits within a container div, but doesn't strictly have to. It does have a few CSS properties set on it, the board radius property for rounded corners, and the box shadow property for a small shadow. Now, if you just scroll down a little so that the code comes into view and you can see it in all its glory. There we go. Now, moving on to the chart. It has two datasets passed to it in the form of a two-dimensional array. This will give us two lines on the chart, one for each dataset. As for the configuration, the shadow is turned off, the X and the Y axes are turned off so that we can see the grid lines behind them, and the X axis labels are given. In this case, the short form of the months of the year. Two colors are given, one for each line that's on the chart. The tickmark style property can be one of a number of different styles, which are shown on the line chart API documentation page, or if none of the styles fit your requirements, as is done here, you can set it to a function, and then inside that function, you can draw your own tickmark. The function that you specify takes a number of arguments: the line chart object, the current dataset, the value of the current point, the X and the Y coordinates of that current point, the color of the line, and the previous point's X and Y coordinates. You can then use these values to draw your own tick mark, as is done here. The drawing of the tick mark uses the rGraph path function, which is added to the rGraph chart object and allows you to draw on the canvas in a concise and convenient way. Instead of the verbose canvas API, you can use the path function and give it a series of 1 or 2 character commands, and it will then perform the relevant action on the canvas. It's much like the SVG path syntax on which it was modeled, but not identical to it. The first argument to the path function is the path to perform. Here's a translation of what's done here by the path command. The B stands for begin path. The LW followed by a number sets the line width. The A calls the arc function and draws a circle. The following 6 items are passed as arguments. In this case, there are 5 numbers and the word false, which is converted to a Boolean value first. The percent symbol is replaced by the relevant argument to the path function that follows the path string. So the first percent is replaced by the first argument after the path string. The second percent is replaced by the second argument after the path string, and so on. Numbers are converted to floating point values, and true or false values are converted to real Boolean values. The F performs a fill. You can either give a color as the argument after the F, which will be used as the fill style, or you can specify the keyword null, and whatever the current fill style is set to will be used to perform the fill. The S performs a stroke. The stroke style is set to black, which, because the background color is also black, means that the tick mark appears a little separated from the line itself. The subsequent arguments to the path function are the values that are substituted in place of the percent signs. Here, the x and y variables are given, which came from the arguments given to the function, the tick mark radius variable, which was defined before the chart was created, and the pseudo-constant arggraph.2pi, which means that we'll get a whole circle drawn by the arc function. Then the line width is set to 3, and the colour of the text on the chart is set to a near white shade of grey. The responsive function is then called with two sets of configuration, one for screens up to 900 pixels wide and one for screens larger than this. We'll go into more depth about the responsive function in a later video. Then, before the draw function is called, an event listener function is added using the on function, which is available to all the various types of arggraph chart object. This event is called before draw, and all it does is clear the canvas before drawing commences to black. The chart is thus then drawn on a black canvas instead of a transparent one. If we had used the draw event, the canvas will be cleared to a black colour after drawing the chart, thus wiping out the chart, and we would just see a blank black canvas instead of the chart. The chart is then drawn, but using the trace call instead of the regular draw call, so you get a nice animation effect. By passing an object to the trace function, you can give options to the animation. Here the frames option is given, which sets the number of frames in the animation effect to 15 instead of the usual 30 for this effect. Most animation effects will use 30 frames, though a few do use more. And that's all there is to making this chart. Thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, then feel free to post me a message in the arggraph support forum. See you on the next video.